We are Maria
and Nicole. We're two secular homeschooling moms that have
been there, done that. We all want the best for our children. Whether you're a new homeschooler or have been homeschooling for years, every one of us has encountered fear and worry at some point. In today's episode 41, we're going to be talking about building the confidence in yourself and giving you the tools you need when you're struggling and needing assurance.
And as usual, we want to stress that our podcast is an inclusive space for your everyday parents that are looking for education options. We are not here to convince you to homeschool. We want to stress that you need to do what works for your child and for your family.
Every family's different.
Absolutely. And you know your children best. So feel free to take what advice or information you get from here that works for you and chuck the rest.
Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning, Maria. How's it going?
I am a little sad. I just moved my daughter into her very first apartment.
Oh, that's awesome, though.
I know. You know, her college, they have a housing shortage. So unless you're an entering freshman, you can't live on campus there anymore.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I guess Jack went into his first apartment sophomore year as well. He wasn't forced into it, but he wanted to live off campus. And then he was like, oh, I kind of miss the dorm food and all of that.
Yeah, I don't think she will. She was making bacon yesterday. She's all moved in.
Oh, good.
And it's a 3-bedroom townhouse. And she arranged to pay an additional $20 a month. And she got the master with her own bathroom.
Nice.
And her roommates share a bathroom.
Okay, well, that sounds like a really good deal.
Wow. I'm like, wow, you really, I don't know how she managed that. So.
Oh my goodness.
And you are moving your baby into an apartment, right?
No, moving out of an apartment. I'm not even sure what the plan is there, but I'm going up there next week to help. And I put my real actual baby on a plane by herself for the first time yesterday, which was a little bit crazy.
Yeah, She's saw the picture on Facebook.
Off to camp in Boston. Yeah. And then I'll meet her there at the end of the week to watch her show and everything. She's at Riverdance camp. In fact, it was funny. People always love sending me the videos. I'm sure you've seen the 2 Irish dancing brothers, the Gardner brothers.
Yes.
They're always on TikTok and stuff. So my friend had sent me some of those videos yesterday and was like, look at these guys. They're really cool. I'm like, actually, Jillian and Michael Gardner are hanging out at the airport right now waiting for everybody else to land. That's who picked her up.
Oh, wow.
From the airport. So
that's so cool.
I know. I wondered if she was watching his videos on TikTok while they sat there together.
Cool. And last week we had our big extracurricular and volunteering episode. And afterward, you reminded me something you forgot to mention.
I totally forgot. So I was a candy striper in high school. Actually, I was 14 years old. This was technically my first job, even though I didn't get paid. But so I worked at our local hospital and I did 2 jobs there. One was that we had this in-house TV studio that we ran a closed caption bingo show on this in-house
hospital?
On this in-house cable network. And so I ran everything from the bottom. I ran the camera. I would choose all the graphics. I'd run out, pick the bingo stuff on while I was rolling.
That's so cool.
And then people would play it from their room. And then if you won, we'd run a prize up to you. And I did that part too. I would run up the stairs or elevator. It was kind of funny. It was a really interesting experience. I don't even know if hospitals have this anymore. But then I also worked in our supply processing and dispatch area. And I would run bottles of Advil and baby things up to different floors. But also sometimes when they were really busy, they would have me run things to the lab. And I would have a big jug with somebody's placenta in it from the labor and delivery or bags of blood.
Oh my gosh.
And one time I was curious. I opened it up and looked inside. And I'm these days with HIPAA rules and all of that, nobody would ever let a 14-year-old run around the hospital.
What was in that one? A placenta?
A placenta.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you ever seen one?
Well,
seen your own?
I've had my own babies.
Well, guess what? That's great birth control at 14 to look in there. So... But anyway, it was pretty funny. I can't believe I forgot to mention that in last week's episode. But anyway, today we're going to have another great one. We're going to talk about building confidence to homeschool your children. It's sometimes hard to see that every homeschooler struggles with this at one point or another, but it's true. Sometimes when we have friends whose children are excelling in a certain subject or sport, we see their highlight reel on social media, and that can be intimidating.
Yeah, we all have those kind of moments. We all feel uncertain about all of our life choices at one point or another, and it's not just homeschooling, though.
No.
There are a lot of reasons why people feel uncertain. This may be a brand new road for them, and they've simply not done it before, and doing anything for the first time can feel intimidating or frightening sometimes.
Yeah, or sometimes it's a matter of how aware we are of our own shortcomings. I struggled in math for years, and now suddenly I'm taking on the responsibility of teaching math.
Right, for sure. And I've often struggled wondering if I would have the patience required to sit through lessons. I've never taught before, and could I really do it? And was I capable? And could I really sit through my young child sounding out letters without tearing my hair out? Or how in the world was I ever going to teach chemistry when I didn't even completely understand it myself?
It's completely normal to lack confidence in something you've not experienced before.
Right? Even if you've struggled with a subject in the past, you can be an exceptional teacher because you're passionate about learning and teaching it now to your children.
Right, and I see this on message boards all the time. A big reason that people struggle with this is when a concerned or unsupportive friend or family member or even a spouse puts doubt in their heads and tells them that they're incapable of such an undertaking. They like to say, oh, your children are never going to be socialized. They're going to be weirdos. And sometimes they're sadly, like literally laughing at people because they struggled themselves in school.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking when I see posts like that online. But it's simply not true. You are capable of homeschooling your children and setting them up for success in homeschool, in college, and in life. It may be best to spend less time with unsupportive people. We say that all the time.
I do.
I know a lot of people who have done that, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to draw a line. It takes two to argue, so make the decision to stop playing their game. If they start rambling on, do whatever it takes to keep your blood pressure down. Tune out and walk away.
Right. I often tell people not to engage in conversations with people because then that makes them think they have a say in it. And oftentimes they don't.
They do not.
Now, of course, this is difficult to do with an unsupportive spouse. Homeschooling is a family decision. It's an entire lifestyle. So if you have an unsupportive spouse, it really is important to listen to each other and your concerns, both of you. You're a family unit after all. Sometimes they're just sold on the idea of public school and they're not budging. And if they're completely against it, it might not be the best path for your family.
Yeah, it might not be. If they're going along with it, let the results of all that you and your kids accomplish speak for themselves. Be patient with them as they grow to accept and hopefully embrace this new life. Have confidence in yourself and move forward, and know it takes some people longer than others to get on board. Just move forward, doing your best. And remember, they also have your kids' best interest at heart.
Right. Sit down, have a totally calm, open conversation about it. Let your partner know how important their concerns are to you and that you want to understand them. Unfortunately, there is a lot of misinformation and stereotypes out there about homeschooling.
No, that's so true. It's one of our biggest inspirations in creating this podcast. It's not just about paying it forward to all those homeschoolers that have helped us along the way, but we also want to debunk the stereotype of a lonely homeschooler sitting at home that doesn't ever talk to anyone. And socialization is one of the biggest myths of homeschooling, if anything, because we had a shorter school day, which allowed so much more time for events and activities. I actually found we were often too social and sometimes struggled to find time to get chores done at home.
It really is a problem. When
Yeah.
people say, are you worried about socialization? I'm like, totally am. We have too much of it.
Too much.
But remember, through all of this, there is no one more qualified to teach your children than you. You've been teaching them their whole life already. In this episode, we're going to be talking about identifying some strategies to help build your confidence, but really the best way to grow in confidence as a homeschool parent is just to do it. When we've decided that this is the best path for our children, if we're so terrified of making mistakes that we never try homeschooling or we quit at the first sign of challenge, that's the true failure.
When things aren't working, these are the learning opportunities for both you and your kids. And I love that about homeschooling. We're able to identify where we went off track, and from there we can easily change it up, buy different curriculum, or find different approaches to teaching a concept. Individualizing a child's education so they learn best is one of the coolest things about homeschooling. This would never happen in public school, and sadly, it often leaves children behind. And your homeschool probably won't look like public school, and that's okay.
It's better than okay. The system isn't working for your child, so I would really encourage you to shift your mindset from that public school mentality of teacher and student and really begin to move more into a growth mindset and redefine your relationship as co-learners.
Honestly, I've learned more in homeschool than I've ever learned in all my years in public school. And really, there are so many reasons that families choose to homeschool. Some families have concerns about safety and their child's well-being and want to have more control over their socialization. Possibly they've gotten caught up in the wrong crowd or bad influences that are affecting them negatively. Or they may want to incorporate their beliefs, whether that be religious or cultural beliefs. Children who have negative experiences in traditional schools, like maybe bullying or social challenges or feeling like a failure when they couldn't keep up, can really thrive in homeschool.
Yeah, and some parents are interested in customizing their child's educational experience to meet the child's individual learning style and pace and interests. Some parents believe that they can provide a higher quality of education than what's available in our local school system. Or some may prefer alternative education philosophies in general. This personalized approach can lead to better academic outcomes.
Right. Unfortunately, there are so many families who feel like the system has completely failed them and their children. Especially for children with special learning needs or learning disabilities, homeschooling can provide a more supportive and tailored educational experience. Gifted children also benefit since you can provide a more challenging or an advanced curriculum. Really, I've always homeschooled, and the idea of gifted always dumbfounded me because it's such a public school idea to compare your children with others. As I taught my children, we simply just moved on when they mastered a concept. I suppose by public school standards, my oldest probably would have been seen as gifted, but when you're just building on what you already know and after you've mastered it, there's not really a gifted box to check. To me, both my kids are gifted, and really all kids are gifted. They're special and they're all unique. Can you tell I'm not a huge fan of all this comparing game and comparing them?
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's never good. Another reason that people might homeschool is maybe families with non-traditional lifestyles, like frequent travel or remote living. They may find homeschooling to be a more practical education option. We moved a lot, like every 2 years there for a while. So homeschooling was a great option for us. I didn't have to worry about moving to the right school district or moving during certain times of the year so that my kids wouldn't miss school or could start, at a certain time.
Right.
So that made it a real flexible option for us.
Yeah, I love that. I've mentioned my nursing friend before, and she'll work like 3 solid days and then homeschool for the next 3 when she's home, and it really works for them.
Yeah. Homeschooling also offers flexibility in scheduling. It allows families to create a learning environment that accommodates travel and family commitments and other activities. Homeschooling also increases family bonding, and it gives you more time spent together, and it strengthens parent-child relationships and sibling relationships. My kids just love to be together.
Yeah, mine too.
They're awesome like that.
Yeah, every family's decision to homeschool is unique and personal, and each family's reasons and motivations may differ based on their specific circumstances, their values, and their beliefs. We always like to point out that every homeschool family is different, and a lot of times we may be homeschooling for completely opposite reasons.
Yeah, it's crazy. But at the end of the day, we believe all parents can homeschool. You really just have to want to do it. That's your biggest barrier right there.
Right.
So how do I know when to start homeschooling? Well, deciding when to start homeschooling is a significant decision. It's going to depend on several factors, including your child's age, developmental readiness, family circumstances, and, of course, your own personal preferences. So here's some indicators that it might be the right time to start homeschooling.
Right. Well, maybe you've always planned to homeschool, and consider your child's developmental stage and readiness for formal learning. Some children may be eager to learn and show signs of readiness at an early age, while others might benefit from more time in a less structured learning environment. Once you've made a decision to homeschool, I know how exciting it can be, but I would really encourage you to not let your eagerness overshadow your child's readiness. Time and time again, I see people with 5, 4, 3, 2-year-olds, and really the other day, a 13-month-old. They were wanting to start formal lessons with their little baby when their child was clearly showing signs that they were not ready. And this can often lead to frustration for both you and your children.
I know. I've seen so many times when people started formal academics when their children weren't ready, and it totally backfires and it leaves their young child resistant to lessons. Don't set yourself up for failure by starting when your child is not ready. And I do have to say that I learned that by kid 3.
Yeah.
Not on kid one.
Yeah,
we all do
excited.
that.
When we make the decision, we're super excited.
Oh, for
Let's
sure,
do this.
for
Let's do this.
sure.
We want to make a little school in our house. So listen to signs and know that young children under the age of 7 learn and retain information best through play-based learning. This has been documented and proven time and time again. So know that and move forward with that information.
Yep. And if you have concerns about traditional education system, like the curriculum, teaching methods, class sizes, and safety, homeschooling can provide an alternative approach that addresses all of those concerns.
And if your child has a specific learning need or interests that are not adequately met in a traditional school setting, homeschooling really can offer that more personalized and tailored learning experience. So take advantage of it.
Yeah. You do have to consider whether you have the time, energy, and willingness to take on the role of a homeschooling parent. Homeschooling requires dedication and active involvement in your child's education. And we've mentioned before that lessons don't take that long. Like even in high school, when our kids were, working on associate's degrees and doing a lot of college classwork, school never took more than like 4 hours max for my kids.
Us too.
Yeah. But homeschooling's also about more than just academics. Your kids need to get out in their community, be with friends, hanging at the park, playing board games, getting hands-on at museums. Remember, learning doesn't stop when school books close, and choosing to homeschool is a complete lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you need to assess the availability of support networks, such as those homeschooling communities, the co-ops, and online resources. Connecting with other homeschooling families can really provide valuable support and social opportunities for both of you. I love my homeschool mamas. You're one of them. I love you.
Right. I mean, I personally consider like that support system to be crucial. I'm always a little bit surprised when people will move here and, show up on the homeschool forums and be like, oh, hey, we just moved here and what's in my area? I'm like, what? I always looked at that stuff first. Like, that's how I decided what part of town to move to.
Yeah.
And when we made our second move in town, I was like, let me move to the place where I'm going to be closest to all the things we do every week anyway.
Right. And you also need to ensure that you're aware of the homeschooling laws and regulations in your country or state. Familiarize yourself with any necessary paperwork or reporting requirements. We have our handy guide on our website that shows every state law and summary and links to the State Department so you can read further about that.
Yep, we'll link it in our show notes. Also, if you're unsure, you can start with a trial period of homeschooling to see how that works for your family. This is going to allow you to assess whether homeschooling is a good fit before committing to it long term. A lot of people ended up doing this, like not so much by choice during COVID, and we've had some really good friends that really, really blossomed as homeschoolers this way.
Like Michelle?
Yeah, that's who I was actually thinking about her. And remember, if you're pulling your child from a school environment that was not working for them, it's important to spend some time going through the process of deschooling. We have an entire episode about that, but in summary, it's a process to help your child transition into homeschool if they've come from a school environment and kind of breaking public school mentality.
Right. And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The decision to homeschool should be based on what you believe is best for your child and for your entire family. Take time to research, reflect, and discuss the idea with your partner. I'm a single mom, so it's just me. I get to decide all myself. And any other involved parties that might be making a final decision with you. But also remember that, like we talked about in our deschooling episode, don't be afraid to take that plunge.
Right. You don't have to keep your kid in a bad situation because you feel like you don't have a plan yet. You are not going to ruin a fourth grader by pulling them now and going through the process of deschooling while you figure things out.
No, not at all. This step is for both the parents and the kids.
So just a reminder that this is a weekly episode. We drop one every Thursday morning just for you. And if you have any additional ideas or comments, please come and comment on our Facebook page, on the episode thread, or send us an email at info@btdthomeschool.com. We'd really love to hear from you.
So how do I teach subjects that I don't know? Well, you don't need to be an expert in any subject to adequately teach your children. Teaching subjects you don't know as a homeschooler can be a bit challenging, but it's also an excellent opportunity for both you and your kids to learn together. Here are some of the strategies that we're going to talk about to tackle this situation.
Right. The first one is scripted curriculum. Many curricula are totally scripted. That means the entire lesson is laid out for you with questions and answers like, you say this, here's the answer you're looking for. You say this. And this takes so much of the pressure off. And speaking of curricula, there's about 1 million options out there. We just did an episode on the 7 steps to picking a curriculum. So don't feel like you need to come up with something on your own. I often see people getting really stressed out trying to cobble something together. And I'm like, hey, this company over here already did that. Like, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel.
Right. Yep, exactly. There's also hands-on learning. So many children, especially young ones, learn best with hands-on activities. We did so much of this with my kids. With math, for instance, if you can count and recognize numbers, you can teach a 3-year-old math. Use objects to help your child visualize counting. Read books with numbers and counting. Point things out in everyday life. Count the trees, count the leaves, count the acorns. I love it.
Look, you're already doing it. You're learning. You can use online resources, online learning platforms, educational websites, tutorials. You can learn the subject with your child. There's numerous resources available for various subjects like math and science, coding, languages, like all kinds of stuff. Khan Academy is one we use often when we have trouble with like a math or a science problem and we need a better explanation.
And there's also Brain Pop and Brain Pop Junior. And Brain Pop Junior is for K through 3rd grade. And I believe Brain Pop is 4th through 6th grade. And it's every concept under the sun. And often we would use this to kind of introduce something. I remember we watched a Brain Pop video when, unfortunately, my children's grandfather passed away. And they literally had a video on memorializing a loved one. And it was a very sensitive topic, but it was presented super well. So there's lots of resources out there to learn everything. And along with that is educational apps and software. You can explore these tools and provide interactive learning experiences for your kids. Many of these are designed to be self-guided, making it easier for your kids to explore subjects independently. While we don't really advocate for online programs for young children, there are a lot of cute supplementary apps and programs that can help with things like reading, like Starfall.
So also you can consider enrolling your children in online courses or outsourcing to a local teacher or tutor that specializes in a subject that you're not familiar with. This can provide them with expert guidance and support in their learning journey. We've both used OutSchool for various kinds of subjects. And then we also both use a local brick and mortar homeschool school called Thinking Reads for upper level math and science.
Right.
You don't feel like you have to be the only teacher for your kid.
Right. I like to outsource those upper level math courses.
I do. And there's a lot of cool stuff out there too. Just like fun stuff that maybe I'm not fun about teaching.
Well, and when they get older, sometimes they don't want mom to teach every subject too. So
right.
we
And
run
I mean,
into that a lot.
it's good for them to have other people to learn from, I think.
Yeah, letters of recommendation for college. There you are.
Exactly. There you go.
There's also co-ops with other homeschoolers. You can connect with other homeschooling families who have expertise in subjects that you're less familiar with. You can organize study groups or cooperative learning sessions where kids can learn together under the guidance of parents with more knowledge in these areas. We were part of a co-op for many years, and my kids learned so much and now have really great relationships with all the other parents from
And
that
kids in
co-op.
those groups. Yeah, we loved doing that.
There's also library resources, our favorite place in the world.
It's the library.
Utilize your local library. You can find books, DVDs, and other resources related to subjects that you want to teach. Libraries often offer educational programs and workshops, which can be beneficial for both of you. I did a garden thing there. That was an adult class that I did.
Yeah.
Of course, my kids have done tons of things. We started with library story time when they were toddlers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So fun.
My parents, who are grandparents, are taking a class right now on how to use their iPhones. It's great.
Good for them.
I know. It's awesome. And we also, I think we talked about this in another episode too, but a lot of libraries have education boxes you can check out. I did a
Yes, we
whole
have
nature
that.
box that had bones and feathers and like all kinds of stuff.
We've
And
done
they
they had a
different ones.
ukulele one. They have a STEM
fun.
one. They even have one. Ours has a Raspberry Pi, like an actual computer you can
Oh,
program.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So field trips and real life experiences, whenever possible, incorporate these trips and adventures into, maybe stuff that's related to the subject you're learning about. Visiting museums, science centers, historical sites, or nature preserves, that can all enhance learning and understanding. And we have an entire resource dedicated to field trips. We did a really cool episode on it.
Yes.
And you created a really neat field trip guide, and
Yeah.
it's awesome.
And when I created that guide, it's basically like a writing prompt. So whenever we were finished with the field trip, we would come home and reflect. And that paper and that download that's free for you guys to use yourself, you can incorporate writing when you get home or the next day.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're exhausted when we get home from a field trip.
So.
Though.
There's also documentaries and educational videos. You know, I love my donuts and documentaries Mondays. You can use educational documentaries and videos as supplementary learning methods, and these can provide valuable insights and explanations on various topics. We love Crash Course is a great educational video site. Horrible Histories.
Love Horrible Histories.
Those are fun. And okay, so these are not really for kids, but your high schoolers might think it's funny to watch some drunk histories.
Drunk history.
Have you ever watched those on YouTube?
Yeah, they're so funny.
They're totally inappropriate, but like I said, your high schoolers might get a kick out of that.
Use your discretion.
Use your discretion, but they're pretty funny.
You can also encourage independent learning. You want to foster a love for self-directed learning in your children, so provide them with the necessary tools and resources and encourage them to explore subjects on their own with your support and guidance. Encourage them to ask questions and explore their interests. Facilitate their curiosity-driven learning and let their interests guide the direction of their studies. I love doing this, especially with older kids that, they know exactly what they want and what they want to learn about.
Yeah, I feel like that is happening at your house all the time. Maybe more than at mine. See, there again, we're looking at what everybody's posting on the highlight reel.
Don't compare.
I'm like, look at Maria's house. They're taking apart a car in the driveway while we are still in our pajamas. But you also, take the opportunity to learn alongside your children. Embrace that journey of learning together with your kids. Show them it's okay to not always have all the answers and that learning is a lifelong process. While you may not be an expert in a particular subject, you can still teach core skills like critical thinking and problem solving and research and communication. And those skills are valuable in every single subject.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've always loved learning right alongside my kids. It's important to model that. We are also continuing our education as adults. We never really stop.
No.
Remember, homeschooling is about creating a nurturing and supportive learning environment. Embrace the opportunity to learn right alongside them, and you'll not only gain knowledge in new subjects, but also set a wonderful example for lifelong learning. And after you finish listening to this episode, be sure to visit our website. We're going to write up all of the show notes and have links to everything that we're talking about, so it's just really easy for you to access and reference. Every week, I like to create free resources that complement that episode, so be sure to sign up to our newsletter so you don't miss any of that exclusive content. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, we would love it if you went out there and gave us a thumbs up or even comment on the episode thread.
So how do I build up my confidence as a homeschool mom?
Well, building up your confidence as a homeschool mom is essential for creating a positive and effective learning environment for your kids. A lot of homeschool parents talk about how they never believed they were capable of doing this. Maybe they did horribly in school themselves, especially math.
True story.
Nicole. But the other thing I can say is you are your child's mother, and the person who loves them the most in the world is the best person for teaching them. You know what's best for your child, and the fact that you know you want to homeschool is a sign of that.
Right. It's really hard to believe in yourself, but you're going to do great. I remember being really frightened that if I couldn't teach my kids how to read, it was all over at that point. But now everyone's reading. Everyone's doing fine at math. I really never believed I was going to be able to teach my kids to read, and then I did. And you just have to take everything as it comes. The beauty of homeschooling is that flexibility and adaptability. You have that in your child, and you can go at your own pace.
Yeah, teaching them how to read, that was such an empowering moment for me.
Right. And like once we finally got that, I was like, okay, now we can do everything. That was like the hard part.
Yeah.
Right.
And it really wasn't that hard.
No, it wasn't.
As you wait for them to be ready.
Right, be ready. Yeah. Check our reading episode out. That's usually the struggle. Again, that comes with the experience of kid number 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But so anyway, here are some tips to help boost your confidence.
So you want to set clear goals, define your objectives for homeschooling, know what you want to achieve, and this is going to give you a sense of purpose and direction, making it easier to stay confident in your decision.
Right. Educate yourself. Continuously learn about homeschooling methods, curriculum options, child development. The more you know, the better equipped you are to handle challenges and make informed decisions. I am constantly, still, even though I'm on my last high schooler, I am always reading homeschooling books. I mean, part of it's for the podcast because I like to be able to recommend a book that I've actually read, but a lot of it is I just like to continue learning about homeschooling.
Yeah. I do. It's a passion. I mean, we've been doing it for so long. I mean, collectively, we've been doing it for 30 years.
Right. And new cool stuff, like we saw at the expo, there's new
So
cool
cool
stuff out there, all the time. So we want to try and stay fresh.
Yeah, for sure. You also want to organize your homeschooling space, and that's going to foster a positive and engaging learning environment for your kids, which will also boost your confidence as you see them thrive in that environment.
Yeah. And start small. Begin with manageable tasks and gradually expand your responsibilities as you gain confidence. Don't overwhelm yourself with too much at once. That's an important one for me because I tend to be a person that if I'm going to start my new fitness, healthy eating, blah, blah, blah on Monday. And then if Monday goes askew, I'm like, okay, well, the whole week's a bust.
Why are you looking at me while you say that?
I'm not. I'm looking at us both.
I know. And I know we say this in every episode, but you really want to be flexible. Homeschooling may require adjustments along the way, so stay open to trying different approaches and adapting your methods as needed.
Right. And we talked about this in the last section, but join homeschooling communities. Connect with other homeschool parents through online forums, social media groups, local support networks. Sharing experiences and tips and encouragement with like-minded individuals can be very empowering. Don't hesitate to seek advice or guidance from experienced homeschool parents. There's educational consultants out there, even therapists. Having someone to talk to can help you gain perspective and new ideas. We said many times that our Park Day group was our people and our connection, and it was probably one of the best things that we ever did.
Yeah, I don't think that I could have made it these decades without all of my homeschool mom friends.
No, not at all.
It's literally the reason we did this podcast. It inspired us to make sure that we are paying it forward.
Right. If you live rurally, you might not have a physical group. Don't discount these online groups. I have homeschooling friends that are my best buddies for 20 years, and I've never actually met them in person.
Not weird at all, Nicole.
It's not weird. It's totally normal.
There is so much confidence that comes through just having a conversation and sharing an experience with someone who else has gone before you. They can help you normalize your scary experiences, and we all have been there. We were all terrified of failing our kids at the beginning. We all still have occasional doubts about if we're doing enough or making the right choices about curriculum or other things. Having somebody tell you, yes, this is normal, I've been there too, can be so helpful.
Yeah, sometimes we just need to hear that we're doing a great job.
Right. Yeah.
And, the fact that you even question whether you are or not, whether you're doing enough for your children, I think that's always a sign that you are a good homeschool parent.
And I love when I have friends in my life that lift each other up.
Yeah.
And I think that's, as women, that's what we want to do with other women. There's so many times there's so much competition and people break each other down. And I have really found that the opposite is true with homeschoolers. They're really trying to lift each other up. And I think that is part of the reason that, the support is so strong.
Right. And it's not just always people saying, hey, you're doing great. Everything's wonderful. Sometimes I will have friends that flat out tell me, yeah, you know what? You're overly ambitious with that. You know why your days are stressful and weird? It's because you're doing too much. You need to cut out 3 of those things on your list and everything will be smoother. And they're right. So that's why we're all here, to help each other out.
And remember when the kids were younger and I was not having them do their own laundry, and a friend came up and said, have them do it. And they were young. They were 5 and 8.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And they're like, have them do it. And it did take a little bit of a learning curve, but
right.
Finally when they got it, literally cleared off my life.
Right. I know. One of our mutual friends blew my mind with you don't have to make them breakfast and lunch every day.
You don't.
And I was like, wait, what? You don't have to make a full-on breakfast buffet every morning? She was like, nope. They can do that themselves. Yeah, they can.
Sometimes it takes a friend just to say that to kind of give us permission. It's like,
Right.
Oh, okay, we can do that.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay, so getting back to our list, attend workshops and conferences. Participate in homeschooling workshops, conferences, seminars. You can gain new insight, meet other homeschooling parents, stay motivated. We had an episode on homeschool conventions. We just participated in one a few weeks
great
ago.
People, and we're not even in the thick of it anymore. Our kids are getting older, and I still found valuable information.
Oh my gosh. I found it was a really refreshing and empowering weekend. It was awesome.
Sure. You also want to celebrate achievements. Recognize and celebrate both your children's and your own accomplishments. Acknowledge the progress that you make together, no matter how small it may seem.
Right. That's another thing I love about our homeschooling support groups is that we all recognize when we're congratulating our graduates, we're also like, hey, congratulations, Mom.
High five, Mom.
Woohoo, because we all know that it was a group effort, right? You also want to embrace mistakes. Understand that making mistakes is a natural part of the learning process. So instead of being discouraged, just use those as opportunities for growth and improvement.
Right. And you also want to reflect on your children's progress. Keep a record of your child's achievements, their academic progress, and their personal growth. Sometimes just reviewing these positive outcomes can remind you just how far you've come and the significant value that you bring to their education.
Right. I always love looking at the sheet that I make at the end of the year about all the things that we've done. Because sometimes, when you're in the thick of it day by day, it feels like maybe you haven't done much. But then I look through it and I'm like, whoa, we did a ton of stuff this year and we made a lot of progress in this. And, public school kids aren't doing all of this stuff that we do.
Yeah, we do so many projects over the year, and I typically display them, but when the next one is complete, I take out the old one and I toss it into a bin in my garage and then display the new one. And then at the end of the school year, I go through all of that because I kind of put it out of sight, out of mind. And then when I go through it, I'm always shocked at how much we've done. It really does add up.
It's amazing. Amazing. You also want to trust yourself. Remember that you know your child better than anybody else does. Trust your instincts and intuition when it comes to making decisions about their education. And also take care of yourself. Set aside some time for relaxing, hobbies, exercise, activities that recharge you.
You know I love my sports.
I know, same here. And a well-rested and balanced mom is better equipped to handle all those homeschooling challenges.
And you also want to practice patience. Be patient with yourself and your kids. Homeschooling is a journey, and progress may not always be linear.
Right. By incorporating these strategies, I think you can gradually build your confidence as a homeschool parent and provide your children with a fulfilling and enriching educational experience.
Remember that confidence is a journey, and it's okay to have moments of doubt. We all have these feelings at one time or another.
We do.
Embrace the challenges, celebrate the successes, and enjoy the process of learning and growing together.
I'd encourage you to take some time to write down all the reasons why you've chosen to homeschool. And in those moments when doubt and fear is kind of surfacing, go back and read and reflect on the big picture.
Exactly. It's essential to remember all the reasons why you chose to homeschool in the first place. Homeschooling's not something you have to do. It's something you choose to do because you know in your heart it's the right path for your family.
Exactly. You can do it. So tune in next week for episode 42. We're going to be talking about favorite books for middle schoolers.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Can't wait.
Cheers. Be sure to check us out on our website at btdthomeschool.com, as in been there, done that, btdthomeschool.com. You can join our mailing list and get news and updates on future podcasts, and be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at the BTDT Been There, Done That Homeschool Podcast.